It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. It's a Wednesday, everybody. Gary, how are you?
Doing good.
All right.
I mean, I woke up to the news about Colorado. When I went to sleep,
Yeah.
it wasn't out yet.
Yeah.
And so I haven't been able to read and analyze it completely. I mean, I understand the basic concepts of what's going on here.
Yeah,
and
right.
From unless there's something that is different from what I'm thinking here, this is so bogus. I mean,
Well,
it really, really is. We'll get to Jonathan Turley in just a moment.
Yeah.
He goes through it all, but I think there's a lot of legal mumbo-jumbo going around, but I think when it comes down to it, it's simply a state cannot disqualify. Number one, the 14th Amendment doesn't even apply here.
It doesn't apply at all.
Right. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, that was really, you think about it, that was for the Civil War.
Right.
And that was for what happened when you had actually people fight against the United States.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the case that I think it combines the reality and the legalities of all of this, and that is the fact that they're saying, the Colorado Supreme Court is saying, Trump cannot be on the ballot in Colorado because he did something that nobody has charged him with.
Right.
I think that's
he
what
hasn't
it
even
basically
been
comes
charged,
down to.
let alone convicted.
Right, of anything. And the things that they use, for example, past statements as if statements in themselves that had nothing to do with January 6th is the evidence that he has committed insurrection. It's really, really poor, I expect. Now, they've destroyed the Supreme Court's Christmas vacation.
Yeah, as Dan McLaughlin writes at National Review, way to go, Colorado. The Grinches in Colorado have destroyed the High Court's Christmas vacation because you got to settle this. I mean, it's,
You have to settle it by, what, January 5th?
Yep, January.
Well, the stay is till the 4th, but
right. Okay. Yeah.
It's the stay is till the 4th.
Right.
But and they have to have you have to have the primary ballots done, I think, by the 4th or 5th.
Right.
For the state of Colorado, so there is no room.
Right. Yeah. No, it has to be done.
Yeah.
Here we are. We just started the 20th, so they got to go to work like now. I mean, it has to be.
And if you want, again, if you want the perfect example that we've always talked about, how activist judges are anti-democratic. They're not anti-democrat. They're pro-democrat while being anti-democratic.
Yeah.
And, we have stated this. We've stated this multiple times. Look, I go back to the abortion issue. I'll go back to the Dodd's decision when the left screamed that, the Republicans talk about us being democratic. This is completely and totally anti-democratic. Not when you break it down. It's not at all. It's the complete opposite. Mm-hmm. As the Supreme Court said, this is an issue of life. We don't get to decide it here because Congress and the people of the United States haven't decided it. And the last Supreme Court, the Supreme Court that passed Roe v. Wade, they had no business doing it.
Yeah,
they don't get to decide that. The people of the United States, through their elected representatives, get to do it. And here in this case, it's up to the people of the United States and the people of Colorado to make their decision on it, not unelected judges making up law.
Right.
And that's the problem here. Let's go to he was on Laura Ingraham. That's the first thing that I saw, the interview that he did. So I want to go to Laura Ingraham on Fox News, and this is Jonathan Turley. Understand, Jonathan Turley is a Democrat. It's very important to understand, and he has not said that he is changing from being a Democrat to a Republican. I've never heard him say that. So understand, he is a Democrat. Here we go. Here's part of it.
Jonathan, to think that 4 unelected state court judges could conceivably end up determining the presidential election is something I think most Americans are just shaking their head tonight, saying this can't be the United States.
No, it is a strikingly anti-democratic holding, in my view. The court literally faced a series of interpretive barriers to get to where it ended up. It adopted the most sweeping, broadest possible interpretation to get over every one of those hurdles. So throughout this opinion, it had to adopt interpretations that could encompass a wide array of statements. You know, they used what's called true threat precedent to show that you can view what Trump said as encouraging an insurrection by looking at stuff that he said at other times. And that, of course, allowed them to reach this conclusion. In my view, the court is dead wrong. This is the first major win for these challengers. They've gone to a number of blue states. This is one of the bluest state Supreme Courts you can get to. Even with that, it's split. I think the opinion is really chilling, and I think that the Supreme Court will make fast work of this theory. I hope it does. But I think this court, did great damage to its own integrity with this opinion.
And there have been other rulings in other state Supreme Courts, correct? Or federal courts that have come to the opposite conclusion here. So this is an outlier, which, again, because of what's at stake, it's going to have to be expedited to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, when you read this opinion, the one thing that keeps on recurring in your mind is, where's the limiting principle here? What would not satisfy this test? At each one of these barriers, the court could have adopted a fairly moderate or more narrow approach, but it didn't. And so on every one of these issues, it really took out all the fail-safes and went to the broadest possible meaning. Well, that means that states could engage in a tit-for-tat type of series of decisions. You know, you could have red states blocking Biden on some ballots and blue states blocking Trump. And the way this is viewed by the public is really quite horrific. You know, they view President Biden on the ropes, and the ref just called the match.
Well, just so everyone understands this tonight, essentially, the state Supreme Court of Colorado concluded that the former president is guilty of a federal crime that he's never been charged with, which is insurrection or rebellion, for which he could have been impeached as president, but he has not been charged with that. That's never been adjudicated. So with that, could Republicans, to your point, say, well, by undermining U.S. sovereignty, by leaving the border open, President Biden is trying to undermine the U.S. Constitution. It's tantamount to an insurrection. It's a broad view. But he's going to have to be taken off the ballot of, name your red state.
Well, this court just handed partisans on both sides the ultimate tool to try to shortcut elections. And it's very, very dangerous. I mean, this country is a powder keg, and this court is just throwing matches at it. And I think that it's a real mistake. But I think that they're wrong on the law. January 6th was many things, most of it not good. In my view, it was not an insurrection. It was a riot. That doesn't mean that the people responsible for that day shouldn't be held accountable. But to call this an insurrection for the purposes of disqualification would create a slippery slope for every state in the union. This is a time when we actually need democracy. We need to allow the voters to vote. We need to hear their decision. And the court here just said, you're not going to get that. In Colorado, we're not going to let you vote for Donald Trump.
No.
And, you could dislike Trump. You could believe he's responsible for January 6th, but this isn't the way to do it. I mean, it is, for people that say they're trying to protect democracy, this is hands down the most anti-democratic opinion I've seen in my lifetime.
Wow. I mean, for Turley, that's pretty amazing. The most anti-democratic decision I have seen in my lifetime. Well, remember, he's a Democrat.
And this is, it's important to look at it from all the possibilities that they just laid out here of where states could go if they didn't want this person or that candidate on the ballot. Think about, because my question was when I woke up and saw the decision from Colorado was, all right, am I missing something? Was there a state law that they're saying he violated? The state Supreme Court came in and said, okay, look, he clearly violated this law. Now, again, he hasn't been charged with any violation of a state law. But let's say there was a state and he had been charged with violating the state election law, and that law came with punishment of never being eligible again to be on a ballot in that state for any office. All right, you would have a much stronger case than what this heaping, steaming pile of nothing that the High Court of the state of Colorado threw down, because then you could say, well, okay, now the law could be challenged. The state law could be challenged and say, someone could say, well, that's unconstitutional. We believe,
exactly, right.
And because it's violating the rights of this individual, it doesn't fairly vet it out. But you would still have a much better case of this. I don't know. I mean, the 14th Amendment. Yeah. When I saw that, I thought, I'm reading it wrong.
I know. I thought the same thing.
Or it's a typo.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, no, because no other amendment would apply. I mean, I don't know what it would be. And I thought, okay, but what else is here? I almost had to set that aside because it was so confusing.
Well, and that's why we've always tried to be clear about the kind of justices that exist today. The Democrats put in justices that they wish to make law.
Yep.
And the conservatives put in justices who will stick to the original Constitution. That's what they wish to do. And then say, well, it's up to the people to decide. We have the media incorrectly identifying one side as liberal and one side as conservative, and that's not the case.
Right.
And when it has been the case, the rare times, we've always called it out.
Right.
We've always said, no, sorry, you're not interpreting the law as it was originally done, because that's the only way you can do it. Because that's when you say, no, okay, if that was the abortion law, which when you explain it to people, they go, oh, yeah, but it's still wrong. Well, then fine. Then the Congress of the United States and the people of the United States have to take it up.
Right.
Well, but people will be harmed. Well, it doesn't matter. In a democracy, people are always harmed until laws are passed.
Exactly.
Right. But you don't sit there and say, well, because we don't like the law, to hell with democracy. And that's what these justices are doing. And it is incredibly anti-democratic. But I will say this, that I thought the same as you. I went, well, they're using insurrection. He wasn't even charged with that anywhere.
Yeah, and 14th Amendment, how does that even apply? Right. Because that's the thing, too. Both of those equally. Insurrection and 14th Amendment, neither one applies. He hasn't even been charged, let alone convicted of taking part in an insurrection. Not even close. And they're using
right, but
it.
Remember, they're using this. It's the same thing, because insurrection is under the 14th Amendment.
I know, but the problem is that it neither one, however you come at it from any angle, in this case, using insurrection, There's no way it applies. In any way does the 14th Amendment apply, and you're pulling something out that you're just saying because the media said it, because every liberal said it, and it doesn't apply. No one has ever charged him with insurrection.
Yeah, when I was reading some analysis from Democrat legal people, they said, well, no, this is the correct ruling because Trump committed an insurrection. I'm like, well, you're making a statement that's untrue.
Well, no, that's
nobody even has charged.
That's
with,
my point.
And you haven't been able to connect the dots, and you're just claiming that it's true, therefore it's legal.
Your leverage on the 14th Amendment is insurrection? Look, and it's because, why? Because the left says so. Not because any law was applied here. He was not charged.
Or evidence that they could present that it existed.
Nothing. They just said it.
Right.
A state Supreme Court just ruled that he was guilty of something that he was never legally even charged with.
Right. In fact, they can't even explain it.
No. That's what I mean.
They can't they haven't charged it because they can't explain when they claim it's an insurrection. They can't explain
well, that's
what Trump did to make it an insurrection.
Exactly. Well, and that's why I went back and I was like, okay, 14th Amendment, and if they're trying to, and then insurrection again, if he had been charged with insurrection, and right now that trial we're pending and whatever. By the way, that would be the biggest deal. The liberal media and the liberal talking heads know this. They know that, but they throw it out with nothing there. There is no foundation for this. But a state Supreme Court using that as the leverage for this decision, you're begging the High Court of the U.S.
Well, we have said this. I mean, I think that the outlet for liberals, because they know right now we're at a time when liberalism is hitting reality and liberalism is failing like crazy.
Right.
And so what do you have left? You have justices that you have put in that will not interpret the law but wish to make law.
Right.
And, that's your safety valve.
Right.
That's Democrat safety valve. 866-90-RED-I.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. You may not be able to predict blizzards and ice storms, but you can prepare your truck to handle them. Make sure your truck is prepared for any last-minute winter storms by keeping tabs on your tires before each trip. Proper tire traction is essential year-round, but especially during winter when the roads are slick and roadway behavior is unpredictable. Protect your tire investment with routine checks and pre-trip inspections all winter long. Check pressure levels, tread depth, and inspect for any visible damage or debris stuck in wheel components. Look for steam or melted snow coming off wheel hubs, as this could indicate your wheel bearings are overheating. If necessary, give your tires a warm wash before inspecting them, as snow can cover potential warning signs of damage.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm about to give you, I think, the best analysis of what the Colorado Supreme Court did yesterday, both based on realism and the Constitution of the United States. And it was Representative Clay Higgins on Twitter put, the media asked me, Congressman Higgins, what's your opinion regarding the Colorado Supreme Court ruling that Trump cannot be on the presidential ballot? Higgins responded, it's Colorado. They're high. SCOTUS will overrule THC.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, I mean, I think we're on the path. Dan McLaughlin left out the asterisk, at the end of his article at National Review. I mean, it's possible, I guess, that Trump wouldn't appeal. I think Trump will appeal, but we'll see.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Curley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And just reading this headline, Ramaswamy vows to withdraw from Colorado primary ballot unless Trump is on it. Calls for GOP opponents to join, where everybody is off. Of the primary.
Good
ballot.
luck with that.
Well, it's not going to get to that point.
Yeah. Well, something tells me Ramaswamy won't be in the race by then, by Colorado. I don't know. He's wealthy. He may stay in. He can pay for gas money. He may stay in.
Well, anybody can stay in because it's if you may not be in a debate if whatever debate still continues on, but he can stay in as long as he wants. He's in. So
well, but I mean, it gets expensive. You're going to have to campaign if you're going to do anything. If there's any reason to stay in, it's to get the word out. You're not going to win.
I don't know. Jill Stein, I don't think ever campaigned.
I haven't seen her credit card bills though. I mean, because you do. It's expensive to get, from state. Look, hitchhiking is coming back. It's making a comeback. So,
by necessity.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's sad and kind of funny at the same time.
Do you want to know how old I am?
Yeah. Well,
I hitchhiked.
So
in my life
in Texas, especially down in the San Antonio Del Rio area, we had we kind of considered him a local, not hero, but local musician that did fairly well in the 70s and 80s. Johnny Rodriguez, country singer.
Yeah.
Riding My Thumb to Mexico. It's a hitchhiking song. How many hitchhiking songs do we have?
CCR.
Yeah.
Sweet
right.
Hitch-a-Hiker.
Right. And
that's not even Hitchhiker, it's Hitch-a-Hiker.
Yeah.
Sweet Hitch-a-Hiker.
Yeah. I don't there's
Ride, Hitchin' a Ride. That was a
Hitchin' a Ride.
60s song, Hitchin' a Ride. Vanity Fair, I think that is.
Yeah.
That's good, Gary. Wow.
So we don't have enough for a set yet. I'm trying to see if I could do a new genre, hitchhiker metal.
Boston.
Yeah, going to hitch a ride. Yeah,
Hitch a Ride. Yeah.
Oh man, we may be onto something. A whole new genre.
Now I still hitchhike.
Yeah,
but I use an app.
That's a great point. Remember when it was first coming out? We actually talked to somebody at Uber in we talked to somebody in the media in San Francisco because Uber was kind of, really taking off there in San Francisco at that time. And it was so early, and it was ride sharing. Here's the thing, ride share. You're not sharing. That driver wasn't just going to that place you want them to go to. Yeah, but that's how it was sold at the beginning. And that's kind of how hitchhiking works. Where are you headed? I'm headed up, I need to get to wherever. Well, I'm going as far as so-and-so, so hop in. And have you ever I've never picked up a hitchhiker. Have you?
Yes.
Yeah?
And it goes back to my college days when I was
drunk.
When to use the congressman before when when I was high and making stupid judicial decisions.
Exactly.
No, it's when it would have been in my first year of college, and
right.
and it's when I the bus only came like once an hour.
Right.
And I would it was Main Street in the suburbs. And Main Street runs all the way from the suburbs, way out in the suburbs, all the way right through the middle of downtown Buffalo.
Right.
And I would pick up a ride. And one time I actually picked up a mother and a daughter. I never had. I probably in my life 10 times or less. And probably picked up people 5 times or less.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew it was dangerous, but it wasn't viewed as dangerous as it is, as it became then in the 80s. Because when I was doing it, when I was hitchhiking, that would have been 73, 74, 50 years ago.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I just look for the comedy and everything. So, they're standing on the side of the road with their thumb out, and I just ride by and then give them affirmation by giving them a thumbs up out the window.
I haven't seen anybody hitchhike.
No, I'm with you.
Have you seen anybody hitchhike lately? I haven't seen anybody hitchhike in years.
I've seen a few people walking that clearly would like a ride. And one guy, it was, maybe a month ago. And he had a huge, I don't know. This wasn't a backpack. I mean, it was massive on his back. And he was walking. I was like, he's probably not going very far.
Homeless? Probably no.
I could be. But to carry that, I mean, I'd never seen that with the homeless. Usually but who knows? But he was. I mean, this is out in the country, by the way, not in a town. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know.
Really, you think about it, the probably from 65 to 75. Hitchhiking was huge. People did it all the time.
My dad, when he was 18, I've talked about this. He was going into the Navy, had to report to Naval Air Station in Fort Worth. And he lived, the drive right now, the small town, would be roughly an hour, maybe a little under an hour would be the drive. But he hitchhiked to Fort Worth Naval Air Station. He was 18. He had to get there.
Yeah.
He got there. He reported. He got there on time. He left in plenty of time. Got there on time. And, it's kind of that's. He didn't have any means of transportation. They were dirt poor. So it. Yeah, I mean that's just what you did. That was transportation.
It was and it was you just and I think because I had hitchhiked a few times, that when I saw somebody else hitchhiking, if they didn't look threatening, how do you know?
Yeah,
that you just you give them a ride. Where you heading? Where you heading to? Yeah, okay, I'm going right by there. And I don't think I ever took anybody over 5 miles, where my hitchhiking was like 15.
Yeah.
Now these days I probably would have tipped them.
Right.
But Uber has just legalized hitchhiking with an app.
Ben, what's his name from Cash Cab? Stand-up comedian.
Yes.
Ben Bailey. He should do now, I don't know, hitch a ride for cash or something like that. He picks up a hitchhiker. Of course, it would take a long time to film this. And then all of a sudden they get in and they're on a game show. Maybe it would be disastrous, or maybe it's the train wreck we need. Yeah.
Green Day also did a song. Ride.
Well, it's what was there was the Roger Waters album, The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't he a socialist? So wouldn't that be true ride sharing with him?
Well, he writes. That's why he starts with the pros and cons of hitchhiking. I didn't know of any pros. Because if you're hitchhiking, you're not going, hey, listen, everybody, I'll be back later. I'm going to go do some hitchhiking. It's not a hobby.
No, it's not.
You know what I mean? What's your hobby? I'm into hitchhiking.
Well, it will be interesting to see, getting back to the Colorado Supreme Court. The Supreme Court probably, and by the way, I do believe that Trump will challenge it.
First of all,
I think you'll have more than. Well, no, Trump will challenge it because it's a federal case and he's been damaged by it. So the person filing it will be the person who has been damaged by it.
I think he will.
Which would be the Trump campaign.
And he owes it to, well, I think everyone to actually take it all the way to the top because of the insane ruling. Again, when I looked at it, it was like, the 14th Amendment, and then to see the leverage for it is insurrection. Both of those are equally mind-boggling. Because I thought to myself, first of all, I thought, well, that's a typo, or I'm reading it wrong, or something. And then I thought, okay, let's see what the basis is. Oh, that's the basis? Well, he was never convicted of that. He was never charged with that.
No.
Where are they going with? Think about that. A court. The highest court of that state.
But if you want to, it's the first thing I thought of was, okay, Trump will be up 25 points on Biden next week.
Right. Right.
Because if you look at it, you want to solidify your base and even bring, I will tell you, it was amazing the number of in social media. And again, I woke up to this at 10 o'clock.
Right.
And then had a rush to come into work. But I was amazed the number of people said, look, I'm a never Trumper, and this is BS.
Yeah. Yeah. It's garbage.
You're really because it is so anti-democratic, and it really does solidify in Republicans and I think moderate independents, which I believe there are probably more moderate independents than there were. I'm thinking there's probably more moderate independents than there ever has been since the whole thing of becoming, quote, an independent became a big thing.
Right, yeah.
And I think they look at this and say, all right, this is what the Republicans have said. You pick activist judges who just make up stuff as they go along.
Well, Sotomayor said it. Remember when she didn't know or forgot she was being recorded, we look at it as, it's not just about that. It's about, and I'm paraphrasing here, it's about essentially changing the law from the bench. No, you don't get to do that. And then she said, actually, once she remembered she was being recorded, I know we're not, supposed to say that. No, you just said it. And we knew it all along. Thanks for the confirmation.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. We got a ton of weird stories out there.
Yeah, we do. And some more hitchhiking stories coming up.
Oh, by the way, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And trying to do both.
We hope you find a ride home.
cover the insanity out there, and at the same time, try to be a little bit jolly.
Yeah.
if it's possible. Coming up on the show, Trump goes after Representative Chip Roy yesterday, put out a tweet stating that Chip Roy is a rhino.
Yeah, all right.
And that somebody should challenge him and basically get a hold of me, implying that if you wish to challenge Chip Roy in the Texas primary, that he'll support you, and call Chip Roy a rhino.
Oh, okay.
All
right.
Because Chip Roy is a DeSantis supporter.
Right.
I can't even play Chip Roy went bonkers. He went absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just.
Yeah, we can't play it.
Yeah, we can't play it. Cursing.
Unfortunately.
Cursing left and right, but did some interviews afterwards on it. But they immediately, everybody called out Trump and said, before you write a tweet, know what you're talking about. There is no period. The period's ended to put your name in to run in the primary.
Right.
So it couldn't happen to begin with.
Right.
But it was the whole rhino thing, which we've dealt with before, and we put it to bed right away. So, to give you an example, we got it here in a couple months ago. Some of you guys don't know what the fight's about. But whenever we've been called a rhino, we've said, absolutely, we're rhinos. We are way more conservative than the Republican Party is.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to do that, we'll disarm that right away. You guys are rhino. That's right. We're more conservative than the average Republican.
I'm not even a Republican in name. I don't call myself a Republican.
Neither am I. I mean, yeah. I vote in the Republican primary.
So
but
Rhino is
also.
Republican
right.
in name only.
Yeah.
I'm not a Republican in name, so
right.
I don't.
But
sorry,
but it was just
yeah.
But it was like, wow. But he just went. He was like, well, he is though, and that's why the suggestion would be just simply say. And he did. He goes, I've been fighting conservative causes. Mm-hmm. He was extremely upset. I mean, we sort of chuckled when the guy said a couple months ago, "You guys don't understand what the fight is about." He's young Republican. It's like, no, we have no idea.
Talk radio for decades. You guys don't get it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here this morning. When we had played some of the analysis from constitutional law professor Jonathan Turley on the Colorado Supreme Court and kicking Trump off the ballot, I happened to go by more of the things that Turley was writing on Twitter yesterday, and he wrote this. We had talked about it, about that study from Great Britain that breathing is destroying the planet. If you're breathing,
right, yeah.
And,
if you're breathing out, if you're exhaling.
If you're exhaling,
which
right.
I think about 80% of people do.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
Yes. Except in Colorado. They inhale, and then the justices don't exhale.
Well, it's legal.
But Turley has a recent study suggests that human breathing contributes to climate change. And then he writes, California could go red this election if voters insist on being completely greenhouse emission neutral.
Yeah.
What he's implying here is if the voters say we're going to be completely greenhouse emission neutral, you commit suicide.
Yeah.
And then he writes later on in it, this is his disclaimer, I think. He might have gone, oops. In fairness to the researchers, they are obviously trying to determine different contributions of sources to climate change and not recommending personal abatement measures for individuals. Don't commit suicide to save the planet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, my.
Well,
that's
funny. There's the old saying, don't hold your breath. Liberals are now saying, yeah, you need to hold your breath. Hold your breath.
Holding your breath now is not just what a spoiled young child does to get the attention of their parents. It's to save the planet.
Or a challenge that young boys will do. I remember as a kid, all right, let's see who can hold their breath the longest, right? Or, better yet, stay underwater the longest. And when I became a lifeguard, my first job, that was the one that scared me the most. You guys, would you not do that? I mean, I know I did it for years, but I'm telling you not to do that. Yeah, don't. I don't want to see anybody underwater for a long period of time, but that was the challenge.
Yeah, we did that in life saving.
Yeah,
you had to hold your breath for a significant period of time. I don't remember what it was.
Well, this was just, buddies just, hey, how long can you stay under timing, okay. No, part of the lifeguard training actually was, you had to do that. And
were you a lifeguard?
it's my first job.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I was a So you actually did the entire training. So did I.
Yeah.
I never became a lifeguard, but I had the training.
Yeah. And it's, look, I was 130 pounds soaking wet. I was 130 pounds if I was holding 30 pounds of dumbbells.
So you were twice what I was.
Exactly. No, but I, we had to go down and in the deep end, in Olympic-sized pool, go down into the deep end and bring the sandbags up, and then all the way across, back.
Oh, you had sandbags. We had the bricks, the big bricks.
Yeah.
And that was like 12 or 15 feet, depending on what pool you were in. It was.
I don't remember if ours was 12 or 15, but it was one of those. Yeah, it was very deep. I mean, deep for a pool. So yeah.
Well, what I think now is when I swim, I inhale and then I exhale underwater, and then it traps the carbon under the water.
Yeah, right. Well, it's interesting because I mentioned
that's a line of horse manure, isn't it?
Well, no, but there's a company that has made the carbon trapping material. I don't know if we talked about it on the air or off the air, but it's essentially, I don't know, wood chips.
Oh yeah.
And and they, okay, this is going to, and then we're going to, I don't know, bury it, whatever they're going to do with it.
Yeah, we did talk about it.
Yeah. You're not going to win it. Now, you're going to make $1 million before the environmentalists actually reach to the point of going, no, that's not going to work. Because the only thing that will work is humans not existing. For them, that's the only
Right.
standard that they have is stop existing.
And we remember, because we did the story probably 15 years ago, the story of when climate change really first came into it, and you had some of the radicals stating that, and I remember one, I can't remember who the guy was, that said we need to get rid of, I think we had 7 billion as a population or around there.
Yeah.
It's like we need to get rid of 6 billion people and be down to 1 billion people and have no city the size over 25,000.
Right.
And it was like, and every city needs to be 100 miles away from the other city. It's like, yeah, that's going to happen. You're an idiot.
Right. Yeah.
And so, I guess.
Well, no, I mean, that's it.
And that was the start of, well, no, that was the start really of virtue signaling. Let me propose something that can never be done, and then people will think that I am this great thinker.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. It's, I've come up with, and this is the whole thing with the abstract that the left tries to live in. Now reality is hitting on all fronts. And with conservatives or critical thinkers, of course, reality hits even during that conversation of the abstract, because we take it all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Burr, in one of his stand-up specials, says, he says, if I'm running for office, look, I'm going to just tell the truth. Listen, thanks for being here today. I'm paraphrasing. But, look, to begin with, a number of you are just going to have to go. Now, wait, hear me out. Under your chair, you'll find an envelope. But that's the whole thing. You walk it through and go, well, we shouldn't exist. Now, I will say this. I don't know the impact of environmentalists or, activists, or if it's just, the cost of everything, or the massive responsibility that is being a parent, but our birth rate is very, very low as a nation. And I don't know. I'm guessing that's generational. I'm guessing it's all the above of what I just mentioned. Some of all the above. And so we might be on our way. Look, if liberals aren't having babies, that's a good thing, right? Let's hope. Let's hope. But that's kind of where I think, and we have seen articles. I think we've talked a few stories along the way in our 18 and a half years together of, whether it's a poll or whether it's someone in an article that mentions something, well, we don't want to have children. We don't want to have a family because, it's bad for the environment.
Right, climate change.
Right.
All
right. For whatever reason, I totally support that. If for whatever reason you decide as a couple, as a person or whatever, you're not going to have children and you don't have children, that's better than I don't want children, but I have children. A lot better. Trust me, as a trained foster parent and foster to adopt now, a parent of my Angel, my youngest daughter. That is absolutely okay if you decide not to have children.
Well, I think we suggested that all liberals should not have children once we found out
that's what I was saying. If we're getting to the point where liberals are, that's going to be the new, oh no, you can't have kids.
The new virtue signaling.
Yeah,
and remember, I think it's 60 or 70%
right
of young people adopt the politics of their parents.
Right.
So yeah, we're all for it.
Right. Yeah. Now, I think most people know you and I are staunchly against abortion. But, if you decide and you want to use,
how dare
protection.
How dare you say that? I was suggesting celibacy.
Yeah.
How dare you imply that I might have been going in another direction? I was advocating pure celibacy.
I have to Google
for life for liberals.
I have to Google the word celibacy. What does that mean again? What is celibacy?
And that's stuff you get on your legs when you get older.
I'm sorry. What is it, doctor? You got a really bad case of celibacy on your legs there. It's just, look, some steroid cream might help it. It looks like it's spreading. You go home. Hey, what's wrong? I don't know. I don't know. What's wrong? I think it's the end. What? Doctor says I have acute celibacy.
Well, maybe Al Bundy was onto something, remember?
Yeah.
It was Al who said sex leads to marriage, so sex is bad.
Wow. You and I could go lecture at colleges.
Well, hold it. Let me be intellectually honest. Sex with Peg leads to marriage with Peg.
All right.
And that's why sex with Peg is bad. Okay. Just
that's
funny.
And, but it is, I always make the joke, but it's kind of, we're in that age of, and we talked about the parallel to the movie Demolition Man and the virtual sex. I mean, I think we're probably at that point. I don't know what the potential of AI is right now, but there could be something going on there later. But I look at it and I say to myself, well, look, I mean, if you're of that mindset, I'm perfectly okay with you not having kids. For whatever reason, but especially if you're, listen, I can't fit kids into my Tesla. Are you kidding me? Children in a Tesla? There's no place for children in either a classroom or a Tesla. That's a liberal. That's a liberal mindset right there. Well, no parents in the classroom. I got that backwards. Yeah, no parents in the classroom, no children in the Tesla. There it is. There's your liberal of today.
866
and I'm okay with them not having kids.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Like the chief financial officer of any company, you have to be concerned about rising costs, especially without increases in revenue. Trying to reduce costs, let alone make sense of them, can be a complicated task. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. A penny saved could be $1,000 earned. Saving just 1 penny per mile over 100,000 miles driven annually will deliver $1,000 to the bottom line at the end of the year. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome, and good morning. I thought it was really interesting yesterday, and I think we talk about the problems with the Democrat Party. We also talk about the problems with the Republican Party right now and the split that exists. Between Republicans out there. We had stated, back in after the 2016 election, we actually broke it down with the basically at least 8 demographics that voted for Trump, and the reason that they did so. Found it interesting yesterday. Again, we mentioned this. We just mentioned it earlier that Trump put out a text that Representative Chip Roy. Chip Roy is mostly conservative. You and I have disagreed with him a couple of times, but mostly, if you were to look at where he stands on being a conservative, he's probably about 95% of the way there. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Chip Roy, probably.
Yeah, sure.
But Chip Roy has chosen DeSantis. And so Trump put out a tweet yesterday saying that anybody in Texas who would be willing to challenge Chip Roy, in the primary, let me know about it, because implying that he'll help and endorse you to beat Chip Roy. Now, Chip Roy went crazy about it. I mean, we can't even play what he said because he was cursing, and and Trump called him a rhino, and so immediately he took off at him. That's one of the challenges that the Republican Party has, and you and I have talked about it, about whether the Republican Party is becoming more conservative or more liberal populist. That's a concern. We still wonder where Trump would go in his second term. You could look at somebody like a Chip Roy. I could look at myself and say that over my lifetime, I've been much more consistently conservative than Trump has been. Mm-hmm. That's not an insult of Trump. That's just the reality of the things that he has promoted, and it's documented in his book that he wrote at the beginning of this century. That the wealth tax, which is viewed as extremely liberal, who was the person that brought that into the mainstream? That would have been Trump.
Yeah,
the wealth tax. So there's been a ton of different things. I don't want to use a ton. There's been a number of things that Trump has done. A ton doesn't mean anything, but there's been a number of things that Trump has supported in the past that are outright liberal. They're liberal things. We talked yesterday about when Bernie Sanders said, "I agree with Trump on tariffs." You saw the story, or the Wall Street Journal breaking down the offer from the Japanese steel company, saying doing it because of the tariffs that were led by Trump, that now they can get in, and they can get into the infrastructure bill, which mandates U.S. steel being used. They wish to buy it. U.S. companies don't wish to buy it because they're worried about the antitrust situation that would come because of it, and how the regulators would look at it. So the Japanese company comes in, offers more, says, this is our loophole. This is where we can get a ton of business based on the Infrastructure Act and both the Trump tariffs and the Biden tariffs on steel. And therefore, we as a foreign company can make a huge profit out of both Democrats and Republicans attempting to manipulate the economy. We disagree with that. We don't think that Republicans or Democrats should manipulate the economy. We disagreed with Trump on a lot of things, but he backed off on them, as we've stated before, on economic. He came off as way more protectionist than he ended up being. But when we talked about how we disagreed with Trump and the tariffs, we were severely criticized when Trump backed off on them and didn't put them into NAFTA, and then backed off on it and really changed NAFTA relatively little. We got flack from Trump supporters again. And we said, look, you're arguing tribalism, that you love the guy. We're arguing where he stands on the issues. That is a situation that the Republican Party has now that it didn't have.
Right. Sure.
As much 20 years ago.
Right.
And that's a challenge that the Republicans are going to have to figure out, how to overcome. You and I have talked about it. With Trump, if he wins, I don't have any idea where he'll go on the issues. I really don't.
I don't know that.
I know on immigration where he'll go.
Yeah, I don't.
He's been consistent.
I don't
there.
know where he'll go there, and who is he going to? Because you're going to have to build some allies. You need allies on Capitol Hill. But does he believe that? That's the question. Does he believe he needs to bring the party together, as president?
Walking in a winter wonderland. Gary and Eric on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning.
Did he say Joaquin in a winter wonderland?
I don't believe so.
Joaquin Phoenix? No.
Download our Red Eye Radio app and listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. Yeah, so when you look at this situation, I thought it was fascinating yesterday. I mean, especially how angry Chip Roy got at Trump, and especially the whole rhino thing. And we can't play what he said because there's just too much cursing in it. But he made some solid points. He is a conservative, and nobody really talks. And we talked about this many times before about that there are, not all, but there are many people that like the personality of Trump and don't really pay attention to where he stands on the issues. Now, for example, we didn't get any flack on this one because I think most people understand that right now in the economy, people are price sensitive, absolutely price sensitive. It's like it's never been before in most people's lifetime.
Mm.
Inflation is horrible. And so when Trump came out a couple of months ago and said, day one, if I'm elected president, we put a 10% tariff on everything coming in to the United States from everywhere. It's like, what? So now the other day when he was speaking he was talking about lowering prices and didn't mention that again. But just saying that shows you're a little bit tone deaf as to what's going on with inflation. We talk about the Democrats being tone deaf. Well, if you're the lead Republican running, the last thing you want to do is say, I'm going to increase the cost of goods and services across the board on day one. And so those are things that we look at and say, okay, because of we know he has flip-flopped on issues before, you wonder where he truly stands. Somebody like a Chip Roy, you may disagree with him, and we've disagreed with him at times. He's been extremely consistent on where he stands on the issues as a conservative.
Right. Yeah.
We've said it about ourselves. I don't know anything that I've really changed my core beliefs since my 20s. I'm consistent.
Yeah.
I am more consistent as a conservative than Trump has ever been. That's not an insult towards Trump. That's just reality based on what he has written, not me interpreting what he has written, but what he has actually written and where he has stood on the issues in the past. Now, maybe he has changed, but the point was from Chip Roy, I've always been consistent. He hasn't. And there's truth to that.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, I don't know where the future of the party is. With Trump in the race, there was bound to be, and actually has been all along, the fracturing of the party, and that is the party that is fully on board, or the members of the party or supporters of the party that are fully on board, then the other group that is, okay, I'll be on board for these things, or, this is the way I'll vote. And then there's of course, the never Trumpers, which I don't know to what extent that exists now, unless you're specifically talking about voting. Well, beyond 24, Even if Trump doesn't win, it's likely he won't run again. If he does win, he won't be eligible to run again.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, of course, things change. Wink, wink. Something for the liberals to think about. In Trump's fourth term, and so, look, not saying it's going to happen, but, so beyond 24, what happens? Well, Trump's endorsement will still mean something. It will be huge. Huge. That's going to be, because, as long as he's around, whether he's president or not, his thoughts will go one way or the other. And that's kind of the, whole point on the Chip Roy thing. Look, if you want to challenge Chip Roy in primary against him, I'll support you. You'll get my endorsement. And it's far too late for that. But that's, he's recognizing something that he's always known. Everybody knows his endorsement is it. So the question then, all right, politically, you've got to bring, because you're going to have to bring a consensus to the party, which has always been the case. You've got to bring, as the head of the party, and if you're president, you are the head of the party. Sorry, Ronna, it's not you. I just thought she should hear that.
Well,
but that's it. But the point is, especially as president, you've got to build consensus for your agenda. This is one of the things that was frustrating in his first 2 years of his first term, and that was you didn't have the GOP get it together and they had control for those 2 years, get it together to get the funding for the wall. And we could debate the wall and all of this, but that $25 billion mark, what he was asking for essentially. Now, there are a couple of things. You and I said, well, he should be out there every day. Look, call your representatives and tell them, in the GOP, that they need to help me get that wall built, and, we need a bill passed and everything else. And then, because that's how you do it. If you're going to get your agenda done, he got it done on taxes. He got it done on corporate taxes, 21%. I would have told you you're smoking weed before Trump if you told me someone in the GOP is going to be able to get corporate taxes down to 21%.
Yeah, but I bet you that to the average Trump supporter, the absolute Trump supporter out there, that is even on their list. It's on our list of great things that he did.
Right.
I don't hear that ever being mentioned except when we mention it, because that was one of the great things he did.
Part of my point, because what are the goals? What's the agenda of the supporters? What are they wanting? Because if you're wanting chaos, well, then you'll get chaos.
No, I think what I think the majority of what I hear from people Republicans that wish to support Trump, none of it's based on anything evil. It's always based on things that are actually, when you look back at it, people view as extremely unfair. The two-tier system of justice, the going after Trump with Russia collusion, which was a setup by the Democratic Party, that people believe that Trump has never had a fair chance because of that really dominated his first 3 years. I think that when you see, as we have stated, especially the first impeachment that you see there, and the first impeachment, which was based on, and we asked the question a long time ago, did the first impeachment happen because the Democrats thought Trump was getting too close to the actual corruption in Ukraine with the Biden family?
Right.
Is that a coincidence that we find all this out now, and you look back and you go, okay, and we said it a while back, we go, well, there's the evidence that that the first impeachment was completely and totally bogus.
Can you imagine, by the way, if he wins in 24 and then sometime in 25 he invites Zelensky to the White House and says, we're going to talk about corruption in Ukraine. And then just smiles into the camera, because that basically was the basis of that phone call.
And so I see, and then the indictments. I think that's a two-tier system of justice. I don't hear a lot of outside of the border and generalized economy, but not specifics. That's what I hear from the majority. And all those are good things.
Right.
But it comes down to, well, what will you actually do? And that's why we pointed out when Trump said a couple months ago, where he said, the first thing I'll do, 10% tariffs across the board. We're like, you just told the American public you're going to raise prices. That's the last thing you want to do. Now, last week when he was talking, I heard him talking, he talked about how we need to get prices lower and didn't mention the tariffs at all.
Yeah.
And
right.
so it's like, oh, okay. Now, whether he's bringing that up in other speeches, I don't know. But we're issue people. The issues are what matters. Where you stand, where you stand on the issues. So, the back and forth, I think it's getting to be a little bit childish now, the whole rhino thing and going after, totally loyal conservatives and calling them a rhino. But as we have stated, because we dealt with that in 2016, 2017, or whenever we disagreed with Trump, you guys are rhinos. And went, yeah. If you now, it doesn't really apply to us because we're both independents. We may vote in a Republican primary, but we're both independents. And so it doesn't really apply. But the first reaction was, well, yeah, I'm much more conservative than the average Republican.
Yeah. Well,
And the Republican Party is moving away from what I feel is fiscal sanity, number one.
Right.
But then again, when you look at it, to bring up another case, when we look at the whole Matt Gaetz thing.
I was about to say.
Yeah, but the whole Matt Gaetz thing going after McCarthy. Well, that blew up in their face. And remember, and that was all based on the fact Gaetz was promoting, he's not like Trump, he's not like Trump. And then you had Trump supporters, McCarthy isn't like Trump, he won't go to the wall to ensure that we cut. And then we had to tell people neither did Trump.
Right.
Trump had the opportunity to veto numerous times spending bills. He never vetoed one, not one. And so
politically, that's the thing. You're not going to do that. You don't want to have to sit there with the blame on you.
Well, right. And I understand. I'm not necessarily saying that, it was horrible that he did that.
Right.
What I'm saying is that the comparison from loyal Trump supporters was that
you
Trump,
can't even apply
that,
to.
Right.
Yeah.
That Trump did something that McCarthy would not when that never happened.
Right. And there's the thing, too. We said during that entire process, where is your unicorn? Where is that unicorn? It's not Johnson. It wasn't Jim Jordan.
No.
What was Jim Jordan promising? Remember, I'll work on raising the salt the salt deduction cap. Well, who does that appeal to on a wide basis? Yeah. Liberals.
Yeah, that was Jordan.
That's Jim Jordan.
Who had Trump's support.
That's Jim
now,
Jordan.
The interesting thing with Gaetz is Trump had to come out and say, well, I don't support what's going on. So Gaetz was all over the place. Gaetz didn't even have it straight. I'm not blaming Trump, but a lot of Trump supporters got on the Gaetz bandwagon. It was
on the day that it went down, a reporter asked Matt Gaetz on the fly, what do you think? What is it that you think, or have you spoken to Trump, President Trump, about this? She asked the reporter, and she asked that to Gaetz, and Gaetz says, "Well, I haven't spoken to him this afternoon, but we have talked about this recently, and I know that he supports this. Well, but he put on Truth Social just a little while ago that he doesn't think this is the right thing."
Yeah.
And Matt Gaetz was caught on the fly. He was caught in a corner, and there's the problem. Because there is no unicorn, because there is no perfect situation or perfect candidate or perfect president or perfect speaker or, I don't know, perfect conservative.
But that was all based on you're a rhino and I'm not.
Exactly.
And it was a false.
That's my point.
It was a completely false narrative.
I don't know where that unicorn is. Show me that person.
Yeah.
Because inevitably, what does it come back to? Well, I am. Yeah, but you're not up there. For the people that are up there on Capitol Hill or a candidate for president or whatever, show me that unicorn.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome, and good morning. I did hear that the White House yesterday called it Biden's economic plan. So the whole thing is, are they moving away from Bidenomics again? We brought up how they dropped Bidenomics somewhere around Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We noticed it wasn't being used. Then it came up again last week. And now the big question is, are they still going to use it, or have they dropped it again? And is it now going to be Biden's economic plan?
Right. Yeah.
Just like,
Well, I mean, it's, and I still have to believe that it was Biden himself that's, hey, why'd we drop Bidenomics? We're not going to drop Bidenomics. I like Bidenomics. And they're like, oh, okay. I guess we're using Bidenomics again. They all walk out of the meeting with their heads down. Oh, no, here we go. Because they were on it. I mean, Friday I heard it multiple times.
Yeah, we both the same.
It was like,
wait a minute.
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not backing down from Biden. Okay, don't. In fact, why don't you use that? Joe Biden, re-election in 2024. It's all about Bidenomics. Please put that everywhere.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet Earth, where you need to stop breathing in order to save the planet. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning.
How long before they're telling us to mask up again because exhaling is bad for the planet? Permanent masks. Wait for it.
Well, I don't think that's happening in Texas.
Now, there are times when I'll put a gas mask on just to watch people's reactions.
A gas mask?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not talking about regular masks. You're talking about everyone wearing
Well, in
gas mask.
Now I'm talking about a gas mask because it would, for the left, they would just want you to put a regular mask on. It's not going to do anything, but they would tell you it will. But then, jumping to a gas mask, I could see why my neighbors would be alarmed. I get it.
You ready for the news?
All right.
New York to consider reparations for descendants of enslaved people.
Okay. All right.
We never got to talk about the situation
In San Francisco?
in San Francisco.
Where they don't even have the money to open the office.
Right.
Well, the mayor says it's not in the budget. We don't have the budget to open the office for reparations in San Francisco. So they don't have the money to even start organizing to do it.
No.
But they want to still believe they can do it.
And what were they up to in San Francisco? The numbers got so high.
Well, and it was back and forth between the statewide of California and then the San Francisco. They were different, but I forget what it was. I mean, at some point, one of them jumped to 200 million.
Hard times. San Francisco runs out of money, eliminates reparations office. Wow.
We don't have it in the budget.
Okay, remember, all right, it was San Francisco that got the San Francisco board unanimously supported $5 million per person in reparation payments.
Yeah.
They can't even come up with $5 million once for an office. I don't think the office was even $5 million, was it?
No, I want to say I saw somewhere where it was 4 or just over 4. I don't know why that number is stuck in my mind, but related to that story. But they can't come up with the money for an office, yet they still want to do it. So to New York, good luck.
Right, here it is. San Francisco's Office of Reparations was cut out of Mayor London Breed's latest budget proposal as the city struggles to enact $75 million in cuts. My hope, said the program supervisor, told the San Francisco Examiner, my hope is that the city's deficit is eliminated quickly so that we can fund the Office of Reparations and fulfill the commit. Are they doing THC in San Francisco too?
Yeah.
That's the accusation of what's going on in the Supreme Court of Colorado, that everybody's doing drugs.
Well, in San Francisco, you're weird if you're not smoking weed.
It's true.
What do they call it?
Sober in San Francisco?
California or hey, why is that guy moving to Texas?
Yeah.
They call it California sober, where you don't drink anymore, but you still smoke weed.
So my hope is that the city's deficit is eliminated quickly so that we can fund the Office of Reparations and fulfill the commitment made to address the historical injustices and inequities that have persisted for generations for black people of San Francisco. Walton originally, this is the program supervisor, asked the city for $50 million in funding for the upcoming fiscal year, which was progressively cut over the following months. He temporarily secured $2 million before Breed pulled the plug on that funding for the upcoming 3 years of operations.
Yeah.
Boy, doesn't $50 million in funding for the office.
$50 million.
Boy, there's going to be some great. They were planning some great parties, weren't they? Despite the news, advocates have insisted reparation plans will continue in the background.
Will they now? Mm-hmm.
Now, remember in December of 2022, the advisory committee recommended Shaman Walton, the program supervisor, who was heading up this entire thing. In December of 2022, the advisory committee recommended the city pay longtime black residents to the city $5 million. But Walton opined shortly, said the figure should be much larger. $5 million is a very minuscule number compared to a lot of research that's been done.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the amount? Was it 50,000 that they had originally estimated?
Where they started?
Would be 50,000
cost per taxpayer
would be 50,000 would be eligible in San Francisco for the reparations.
Okay.
So of course I'm doing mine. I have my phone calculator.
Times
5 million. Okay. $250 billion, because that's what we were talking about. Remember, $250 billion, and the city is trying to get rid of their 75. They're struggling to make $75 million in cuts.
That's weird
because of the budget overruns.
My calculator says ain't going to happen.
Oh, okay.
I don't think a calculator is supposed to make that judgment. Maybe I'm reading it wrong.
Well, it's just stupid. I mean, we had so much fun with whether California or San Francisco.
Yeah.
But San Francisco really got delusional on that one.
Right. Yeah.
When they got to $5 million, and then it was like Million's not enough. Right. So you're talking about $250 billion. Where are you going to get the money? It doesn't matter because you don't understand liberalism, Gary. Here's how it goes. You
quit asking questions. That's hatred.
Right. You're asking questions about where it's going to come from. That's hatred.
That's hatred.
You're a racist because you're asking questions of where the money's going to come from. What you don't understand is the more something is impossible to do, the
greater
more
the virtue signaling.
The greater the virtue signaling,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
The more impossible it is, the greater the virtue signaling. And it's across the board. Hey, we can run the grid on solar and wind. You can't. That's impossible. No. Shut up. You want to destroy the world. No, I'm asking questions about whether you can actually run a modern economy on solar and wind.
Yeah.
And you can't. It's impossible. You can't do it. Oh, you negative Nelly. Yeah, figure, you conservatives.
Dare you?
Always saying no, always saying no. Why are you saying it can't be done? Why can't you say it can be done? Because it can't be done.
Oh. See, there you go again.
Then you're worldophobic. Worldophobic?
You're something phobic. We'll get back to you.
You're planetophobic. You're afraid of the world.
Yeah.
We're pro-world.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, and it's just like that's where liberalism has gotten to.
No, it has.
Let's be in bizarro world, to quote a Seinfeld episode. We'll be in bizarro world. We'll promote things that are clear, absolutely, obviously, in a self-evident way, impossible. And we are greater people because we talk about doing things that can't be done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is where they are right now.
Yeah.
It's got to be a lonely place to be. It really does.
Well, I don't know. There seems to be a lot of them. Seems like they're everywhere.
And this is the best, though. I like this. This is the best. In late February, the Reparations Committee chairman acknowledged the figure had no mathematical basis.
So you're just worried about math and money. That's what you're worried about. Remember, Newsom. Well, it's not about the money. That's where you started.
Yeah, exactly.
Man.
Okay, and California was up to 1.2 million
officially,
to
right.
some people, right?
Well,
not to all, but to some would be 1.2.
And who was it? Who was the group calling for 200 million or something? I mean, it was insane.
I think that was okay. That was what somebody had suggested in San Francisco, I believe, when the 5 million was rejected.
Okay, yeah. Like nobody gets it. But that's the thing. When you're a far left liberal, reality doesn't matter. The reality doesn't matter. The math doesn't matter. Science doesn't matter. Well, if a guy can say, well, I'm a gal, and then to the left, he's a gal. I mean, she.
And I think, wasn't the budget of San Francisco $14 billion?
Was it $14 billion?
Let me just, I'll check here real quick because just to refresh all of this, to let you know the insanity.
Yeah, their overall budget.
Right. They're $14.6 billion. Boy, I have a good memory.
Wow.
So the $5 million, which isn't sufficient, would be $250 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Well,
you're talking almost 20 times the annual budget.
Yeah.
Which would be 20 years of the budget for San Francisco. That wasn't enough. They went to $200 million, which would be $10 trillion.
Yeah.
But see, they care more.
Right. It's all about virtue signaling. And then all of a sudden, everyone's going, okay, let's explore this. And here's what it will cost. Well, it's not about the money.
What is it about?
Well,
it's about pretending.
Yeah, but no, I mean that's actually a great point. Maybe that's where he was going to. He didn't finish his sentence. It's not about the money. It's about pretending we have the money.
Right. We wish to pretend that we care, and we pretend that we care when we propose something that is absolutely impossible to do.
Yeah. Can't get there from here.
And then we care more than you.
Right.
My God.
And then
what children?
And
what, I mean, absolute children.
Well, because for anyone, that whatever you're asking the left to do, whatever, if you're somebody who supports the left and you believe they should do something, this just looks like a circus. Like, I mean, not even a good circus. You know the bad circus that would come through? They didn't have an elephant, but they had a donkey.
The bad circus.
You know? I mean, I lived in some small towns. We didn't have elephants. We had donkeys. They'd have a dog. Everybody has a dog. Yeah, but this one can sit. Well, mine sits.
It's a three-ring cat circus.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. It wasn't 3-ring. It was only one.
One ring.
One ring.
And cats.
You know? And they didn't have the flying Walendas. They had the falling Wilsons.
And they were proof that gravity works.
Ta-da!
Oh, my. 866-98 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So good luck in New York.
Yeah, good luck.
Looking at reparations.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I think New York City should look into it, too.
I think so.
Because they're having no budget problems at all.
No, and if you don't do it, you're not a caring community or city. So,
all right, here we go. The latest Harvard Caps Harris poll.
All right.
They were asked the question. Democrats were asked the question. Republicans and independents were asked this question. Do you support prosecuting Hunter Biden if held in contempt? All right.
Okay.
Republicans, 89%. Independents, 72%. Democrats, what percentage of Democrats support prosecuting Hunter Biden if held in contempt by the Republicans officially?
I don't know.
Because that's what they're saying, because the Republicans would say, we're going to the Department of Justice, criminal referral, contempt. And what they're saying is that the Republicans do that, then the Department of Justice should prosecute Hunter Biden. For Democrats, 54%. The majority of Democrats wish to prosecute Hunter Biden, according to the Harvard Harris poll, which is not a conservative pollster. 54% of Democrats, the majority, say prosecute the Department of Justice, the Biden Department of Justice, should prosecute Hunter Biden if the GOP says so. All right, I said it that way, worded it that way on purpose. But it is true.
But it's true. Think about it. It typically, for a lot of people, this would fall along, really a political standard. Right? I mean, not a legal standard of, look, if he was found with 200 pounds of weed, wait, that's legal. 200 pounds of cocaine. That's only legal in Portland. 200 pounds of cocaine. It's a different. Oh, well, no, we think he should be. But if found in contempt,
yes, which is good.
Most Democrats say he should be prosecuted.
Yes.
And you threw in if the GOP says so.
Because that's
basically
right.
It would require, again, we're talking about a political standard here. The GOP could decide not to pursue it, but if they do, the majority of Democrats support the prosecution.
Right.
Wow.
Now there's not going to be like a vote on that. That would simply be he's in contempt, and they file the leadership or the committees would file it.
Right.
There wouldn't be a vote on it.
Right. Did I say vote?
No, you did.
Okay.
I simply was clarifying how it would be done. Yeah, I was clear. I was clarifying my vague statement.
Good.
Yes. You're never wrong.
I actually couldn't remember if I said vote or not.
No, you did not. You did not.
It's none of my business if I said it.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. I love this story. Barbara Streisand freaks at media for focusing on Biden's age. Let's see next time Trump can ride a bicycle.
She knows he's very wealthy, right? He pays people to ride the bike for him.
Well, my response would be, I want to see Biden golf.
I want to see Biden turn around from a podium and not look like a Roomba, as Shane Gillis points out. Seriously. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I heard the Barbra Streisand, I don't know, up-tempo jazz version of Jingle Bells, during that era of, I don't know when the song was done, but it was the Jingle Bells, Jingle Bells, Jingle Bells, Jingle all the way, way, way. It was, okay, just sing the song at, She actually has a great voice.
Her version of Ave Maria is unbelievable.
It'll make you cry and go to church.
Yes, and repent.
But that one was like, it's like she was trying out for the Broadway version of Chicago or something. I mean, it was, I know it was a kind of a trend thing, and probably if you're like a big Streisand fan, it's like, no, it's perfect, but yeah, it drove me nuts. It's like, pick a cadence, would you? I like jazz, but not with Jingle Bells. Just
wow, it's really bad. I remember her biggest pop hit.
Evergreen. Was it Evergreen?
Okay, second biggest pop hit.
Yeah, what?
Stony End.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm remembering all these obscure songs.
I bought my mom the 45 of Evergreen for either Mother's Day or her birthday.
I forgot about Evergreen.
Yeah, probably. And my mom loved that song. And I was like, okay, this is going to be the perfect gift. Back then, I think it was way under $1 for a 45.
I'm just laughing because the desperation is just amazing out there. Well, I've never seen Trump ride a bicycle. I don't think Trump is the bicycle
Is that
riding
the standard
kind of
for
person.
presidents?
I don't know. Well, saying that Biden can ride the bicycle and we don't see Trump because Trump, trying to imply that Trump can't ride a bicycle.
Yeah. That's the standard.
It's just so bad. It really is right now.
I mean, it really, the standard, the bar for the liberal left, after Obama just went through the floor. It's just.
I think part of the polling that you're seeing, the polling on Hunter, and just look, everybody knows. We've seen the polls already. The Americans believe that including a significant portion of Democrats, that the president either did something illegal or immoral, because they view influence peddling, if not even rising to the level of bribery and a felony, they view it as unethical. That you shouldn't be selling access to your office.
Right.
Americans, as we said, Americans hate bribery. They hate influence peddling. What was the other thing they hate? Oh, politicians not paying their taxes.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's maybe one of the other things too that people aren't talking about. Well, why would the majority of Democrats, on this subpoena, why would they want if the Republicans go for contempt? They want the Department of Justice to go forward on it. I think part of the reason is and I think Democrats are completely underestimating this, is the Department of Justice is saying that Hunter didn't pay his taxes.
Yeah.
And then you have the other story that came out that said Biden's daughter, she hasn't paid her taxes.
Right.
And so the wondering is, did Joe Biden pay his taxes? Has their family paid all the taxes that they're supposed to make? Because that is the height of hypocrisy. Because if you look at it, Hunter Biden is what Democrats, the Hunter Biden and the position he has been in, the elite, you can't get more elite than a president's son or a vice president's son, right?
Right, yeah.
And he isn't paying his taxes. And the other thing is that I don't think the that the administration's looking at, or the Democratic Party is looking at, is Democrats are looking at, you don't see anybody justifying that, something with Burisma, they should have let the statute of limitations go because we shouldn't be making somebody like Hunter Biden pay his taxes.
Yeah, right.
Nobody's saying that.
No.
I think the whole tax element here, because those are the two things. Americans hate bribes and influence peddling. That's where you can get, and I've stated this for the longest time, that even Democrats will look and go, if you're not paying your taxes, to hell with you.
Yeah. Right.
Because Americans, for the most part, except what Biden believes is the poor, pay their taxes. The poor don't, because that's why they're going after the poor.
Right.
I'm sorry, I just enjoyed saying that. But when you think about it, when the president again is so insistent on the $600 and people paying their taxes and 80,000 IRS agents and everything else and all this blowhard about we need to make sure that we collect all the taxes, and you find out the family doesn't pay its taxes and they're lecturing you, there's nothing that ticks off Americans, including a significant portion of Democrats, more than that.
No. And it will be interesting to, watch where this Hunter thing starts to really fall. I think the Washington Post thing is that threshold, right? Or I'm sorry.
The story they had,
yeah. Indication of that threshold already being reached with liberals, and not in that wishful tone of, keep in mind, was it in 2020? They were wanting the governor of New York basically to, he could be the guy to step in, if needed. That Biden couldn't be the guy. But that was kind of the wishful thinking that was coming from, just basically the crowd. That was chatter. What happened with the Washington Post is more than that. That was basically the Washington Post saying, okay, time to, say what's what about the whole Hunter thing and the Bidens, and because they don't really want him to be the nominee. The left doesn't want him to be the nominee. And the worse it gets and the closer we get. Because tell me, how do you put a primary season together? How does that work? I mean, if he drops out of the race and says, I can't finish the race because of health, or he just steps up and says, well, the public has spoken, whatever. He decides not to run. It's Kamala Harris.
Well, and she was all over MSNBC yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw that.
So I'm one, and they were asking
her approval ratings are now higher than his.
I know. It's like
I wondered when we were doing that story, I think it was yesterday, it's one point.
Yeah.
I was wondering if she's walking around the halls, doing with a victory smile on her face, basically. Because that's it. You don't have time to put a primary together. The debate between DeSantis and Newsom was horrific for Newsom. So he's not the guy. Well, this late in the game, you can't put a primary together. It's Kamala Harris. So
because if you're going to roll over her and go with DeSantis.
Newsom.
Now, if that was the case, then Chip Roy would be a rhino.
Yeah, right.
DeSantis
ran
on the Democrats.
Look, the Democratic Party has made things happen. Russia collusion. They made Bernie think that, he had a chance at it back in 2016. The DNC is capable of pulling off a lot of things. I guess, if at some point Biden decided not to run, they could, and Harris said no, thank you, then the DNC could put it together and just say, hey, we're gonna do this, and I don't know how you get the ballots together. I don't know how you get it together for the states. We're here. We're already here. So I don't know how that would work. Again, if they could pull off Russia collusion, then maybe, along with the Hillary campaign, then maybe they could make this happen.
Well, but you can drop out at any time, and then your delegates simply go to the next person.
Which would
you don't need to be in the primary. You don't. I mean, that was the whole point.
Well,
remember that was the whole point with Andrew Cuomo back in what year was that? 2020. Remember that he could get in the summertime, and Biden's delegates would just go right to him, or he would be put in the convention. He'd be voted in the convention. So you don't need to go through the normal primary process.
That's kind of my thing, but or I guess my point. But it ignores the primary, the basis for the primary process, but it is the exception to the rule because technically it's part of the process. The point would be is that you would have so many liberal Democrats that would feel cheated in all those states if they just ushered Hillary up there. I don't know how you do that. I mean, I know technically how you do it. I don't know how you politically do that without getting. Remember what happened with Bernie in 2016. Oh, we found out from the leaked emails of the DNC emails. Oh, they were just basically, it was instead of the illusion of access, it was the illusion that Bernie had a chance. And then Bernie's supporters ended up at the convention. They were fuming for the first couple of days. And then Bernie, of course, threw his support behind Hillary. But I think in a situation like that, let's say it was Hillary, right? I think it would still be, if they did it that way, I think it would still be Newsom.
All right, here's a question. Here's a polling question for Democrats.
All right.
If Joe Biden drops out, who would you rather see as a nominee?
Yeah, if it had to be put together at convention.
Newsom, Harris, or Hillary?
I think Newsom wins that. I could be totally wrong, though.
I just like to see it.
Oh, I'd love to see the breakdown of it. Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Here's a headline. U.S. economist predicts 2024 will be the biggest crash of our lifetime. So we'll get to that, and also the All-American Economic Survey. We got to play this audio cut from Steve Leisman of CNBC, who is so liberal, and he tells us what we're learning.
Okay.
And
tell us why it matters.
I don't think it's an Axios report, but it's a CNBC report. But I'm joking there.
Yeah.
Because the CNBC report is like, wow, what we're learning is prices matter to people.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the idiocy.
Breaking news.
This is the idiocy that's going around right now. Is that, well, we either I can see the Democrats. We either need to blame the public, or we need to newly discover that we didn't know that prices mattered to people.
Yeah. Hey, let's introduce inflation to everyone. Let's talk about prices. Here's as if it's, and by the way, that is the approach. I think what we're learning is, and it's just insane.
Well, and you think about it, was it Jamie Dimon who last year in 22 said, by the sometime in 2023, the money's going to run out. And when it does, that's when you're going to see a real movement of people furious at inflation.
Yeah.
And that's what they're saying now. The money has run out.
Yep.
The free money has run out.
Right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. Good morning. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And I'm saying that, I'm not being sarcastic. I was trying to sound like the narrator from Trans-Siberian.
Yeah.
You ever see him? It was his deep baritone voice.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Like shakes the entire auditorium. You're like, whoa, man.
Was that Santa?
Oh, man.
Yeah, let's get ready. You can't say that, by the way. You can't say that whole thing of, the
Rumble?
That you can't do that.
Why not?
He owns the rights to it. You can't say it at any event. He coined it legally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you can say that he says it.
You can report that he says it.
Right. We can report it.
But you can't say it at a venue. You couldn't say it we couldn't put it in promos for this show or
for the show.
anything else.
Right.
You can't, there are ways you can't use it to promote yourself, which I'm not into anyway. So
Well, yeah, I mean, to coin a phrase from 30 years ago, I don't think that.
Well, that's a good point. I don't know how many people still remember it or still, I don't care. I mean, it's really, I mean, those who follow fighting, I guess, probably. But
well, can the people from Rumble use it?
no. No, they can't.
But they are.
They can say, let's get ready to be on Rumble.
Oh, okay, because they are Rumble.
Yeah.
Let's get ready to.
Let's get ready to be Rumble.
That doesn't work.
It doesn't flow. It's like, it just feels like you just fell down trying to run. Yeah, it doesn't work at all.
All right. We've been on this narrative for the last day or two. Liberals trying to play stupid.
Yeah.
All right. Here's another example.
Mm-hmm.
And we go to CNBC's Steve Leisman.
Yeah.
And you and I have always talked about this for CNBC, that, they're basically, I mean, they're a channel for people that pay attention to Wall Street, right?
They were at one time. Mm-hmm.
That's what they're supposed to be, right?
I mean, if you
one
watch
time.
it with the sound off, yes, because you can
exactly
watch the ticker at the bottom.
And we've always been amazed at the number of Keynesian or socialist economists there talking about analyzing capitalism.
Right.
It's like, what? Steve Leisman is one of those liberal economists there.
Correct. Yeah.
Here he is yesterday playing stupid. And this is looking at CNBC's All-American Economic Survey. And this is, again, where he's playing stupid.
Yeah.
And think about this. He's been an economist professionally for, like 37 years, something like that?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, here we go.
I think what we're learning in economics from this whole process here, Sarah, and I think you've been on top of this as well, is the notion that the rate of inflation from a public opinion standpoint is much less important than the price level.
I think what we're learning from economics.
We have some breaking news here at CNBC. We just discovered, through a tremendous amount of effort, that prices are what people are concerned with. That the consumer, I just want to slow down to make sure we have this right, because I'm not sure I fully understand it yet here as a long-time analyst at CNBC. I just and feel free to jump in if I'm wrong, that the consumer is worried about prices. Now, I know we have plenty of experts to bring on about this, because this is really going to be a learning curve for a lot of people.
And controversial it is, too, because at first we just thought that the citizens of the United States out there didn't understand what was really going on. And what we found out through the CNBC survey is that if the price of something goes up 20% or goes up 20 cents, and the rate of inflation goes from 0.4 to 0.3, but that 0.3 is a 20-cent increase in the price, the consumer is more concerned with the price instead of focusing the fact that the rate of inflation came down.
That's right.
Oh, my God. Idiots. Idiots.
It's so insane.
We just found out that, and we're shocked because, we were all behind Biden selling this and talking about the fact that, now I will give him this, at least he said inflation rate.
He did say that.
Yeah, but we've been pounding on the I almost said Obama again, the Biden administration for saying that inflation is coming down. And no, the rate of inflation is coming down.
Right.
That means the rate of increasing of the increase in prices is going down, but it's still increasing.
Right.
And we've also pointed out that a 3% increase in inflation year to year is greater than a 3% increase in inflation a year ago.
Right.
Because everything is built on that base of the increasing of prices. But
Right,
this entire thing that we've just discovered, because that's what he said, what we're learning.
What we're learning.
He ought to be,
Which implies, by the way, he's still learning it.
Right, that he didn't know that. Well, I'm sorry, you're fired.
Yeah.
You work at a money network, and you're just realizing that people are affected by prices? Which is, by the way, the key of economics. Because what is economics? It's how people respond to incentive and disincentive.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yep.
Increasing prices is a disincentive.
Exactly.
They only respond one way. It's like he's completely clueless. All this education that he had is meaningless because 37 years in the business, they're just finding out that people recognize the increase in prices, and the percentage number that the government may give them means diddly and squat.
Yeah.
All they care about is prices are going up.
Right.
And we're learning this. And it's something you've been covering, and it's like we're surprised that this is going on. So if you're a loyal listener, a watcher of Steve Leisman, do you enjoy watching stupid? Is that what you enjoy? Well, I'm glad that he has admitted after 37 years that he's an idiot.
Yeah, right. I mean, it really is. And Leisman is one of those, and clearly on the left, who over the years, when you see him looking at things going, well, what it really is, it's like he tries to fudge his way through, and in defending liberal administrations, there's no way around it. The math is the math. Unless you're talking about reparations, the math. The math is the math.
Well, this is 2 days in a row because Acosta was doing it yesterday with economist Stanley Greenberg. That's like, don't you understand? It does the rate of inflation. It still means prices are going up. People are responding to prices. Yeah. And Acosta's like, oh, wow. I mean, it just, we don't understand. The economy's doing so great. I mean, people are responding to prices. And by the way, we've been fair across the board on this.
Right.
We said when Trump came out 2 months ago and said, let's have a 10% across the board tariff on every product that comes into the United States. We're like, don't be tone deaf on prices. That's where it is. And if you've been listening to us, we've been pounding prices. I've been going through the propaganda that the left has been trying to sell you. Why don't they understand what's wrong with the people? Why don't the people of this country appreciate what we're doing?
Exactly.
Now it seems as if they're moving on from that. It really does.
No,
it
does.
I sense that they're moving on from that, realizing, well, the administration can't sell it. We can't sell it. It's not the truth. So let's tell them that we've been stupid. We've been idiots. We're highly educated idiots who are just figuring out and learning that prices matter to people.
Yeah.
What's next? Gravity exists.
Listen, I threw this object, and I'm going to do it again for the camera. I threw it up into the air, and it went straight down to the floor. I think they're right at NASA about this whole gravity thing.
It's just...
I mean, where else do you go?
I don't know. Maybe
maybe
they'll start realizing maybe this will affect them if they're learning about economics. Maybe we can teach them about basic biology,
or investments,
biology, male, female.
Oh, gosh,
definition of words, secure.
Yeah,
in relation to the border, all these things that they seem to be having trouble with. Wow, seriously now, really?
Right.
You mean are you actually telling me that a biological male cannot be a biological female just because they say so? We're starting to learn this and examine this.
I mean,
is because when Leisman said that, I said, you're communicating to me that you're an idiot.
yeah. What we're learning is what you meant to say is it's been the case forever that the consumer, the shopper,
It's always been the case.
is worried about prices. And this, if you needed further demonstration of that, here you have it.
That isn't economics 101. That's economics 0.1.
We're learning that, what's the word again? Once again, sorry?
Prices.
Hold on. Retailers. These retailers, are they people? Are they? Okay. Retailers are businesses that sell things, is what we're learning. They're all smoking weed. This is how do you not know the room when this has been your job for decades?
I know. I mean, there's no self-awareness that I'm looking like an idiot by saying I'm just learning that prices matter.
Exactly.
To the
you
consumer.
Don't say that.
I know.
You just don't ever say that.
Acosta can say it because people know he's stupid.
Right.
And he's not technically an economist. Leisman is.
Yeah.
It's all he's ever done.
Right.
Wow.
Hmm.
Prices matter. I'm surprised.
Is what we're learning.
So next time you turn on CNBC and see Steve Leisman there, anybody listening right now, you can say to yourself, because I'm sure you knew too that prices matter. That you can look at and go, I've never taken one economic course in my life. I'm smarter than he is.
I mean, honestly, you're in the control room. Did Leisman just say that,
I know
that we're just learning? By the way, he pulls everybody in with him. We're just learning. No, whoa. You're just learning. You need to say it correctly.
And they only learned it because of the CNBC economic survey.
Exactly.
They didn't know it. They didn't know it before. Before they took that survey, they didn't know. Well,
right.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you know what you need to do? You need to put the respondents in front of the camera, and you need to step out of the way. That's what you need to do.
You'd be better putting the average Joe or Jane six-pack there.
Far better.
Or any of the, right there, the Bidenomics study, 62% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. I'm sure that every one of them would be able to tell you, why do you keep saying this? Prices are killing us.
Right.
And there ends the programming for CNBC for today. Prices are killing us.
Yeah,
That's all you need to say.
We're learning. Don't say we, Steve. I've known it for a while.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. In order to manage speed, you need to understand the 4 factors involved in stopping a vehicle. Perception distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time you see a hazard until your brain recognizes it. The perception time for an alert driver is approximately 3/4 of a second. Reaction distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time your brain tells your foot to move from the accelerator until your foot hits the brake pedal. The average driver has a reaction time of 3/4 of a second. Brake lag distance also needs to be taken into account. When operating a vehicle with air brakes, it takes about half a second for the mechanical operation to take place. Finally, braking distance is the distance it takes a vehicle to stop once the brakes are applied. Braking distance is affected by the weight, length, and speed of the vehicle, as well as road condition. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, I mean, after we get that, ridiculous statement that is really pretty unbelievable from Steve Leisman of CNBC that, wow, we're just learning that prices is what affects the public. Let's get some intelligent conversation from the Vice President Harris on MSNBC yesterday.
I have been fortunate and blessed to, during the course of being Vice President, have many situations where it becomes clear to me that there are, people of every age and gender, by the way, who see something about being the first that lets them know they don't need to be limited by other people's limited understanding of who can do what.
Well,
I didn't think it was possible to make me more stupid, but just listening to that brought my IQ down at least 40 points.
I want to play this because this is one of the lies that Democrats keep pounding out there. And it's a simple one to argue against, but here we go.
I mean, look at bans. We want to ban assault weapons. They want to ban books.
Okay.
Now, we know this is about age appropriate, because this all comes from the Florida law is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is age appropriate materials for students in schools that everybody has done from the beginning of time of the United States. Age appropriate. Nobody's banning books from adults.
No, they're not.
And that's what they're attempting to put. You notice they don't say they're not saying, being intellectually honest, the Republicans are saying they wish to keep what they claim are age-appropriate material, age-inappropriate material from young people in elementary school. We believe that all sexualized content should be taught to the young kids.
Right.
That's what they should say. That would be accurate.
You're not banning books for adults.
No, they're not.
Give the gift of the Red Eye Radio app this holiday season. Merry Christmas from Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight.
And thank you.
All right, so looking at more economic news out there, 62% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck right now. It's roughly been around that for the last few months.
Yeah.
Majority of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Lending Club study found there's been a variety of different people that have done that survey. 62% of adults in December said they live paycheck to paycheck. Okay, up from 58% in March. Americans who are struggling to manage their finances are likely to have credit card debt. That's not any news. Now, I thought this was interesting. The economist Henry Dent yesterday predicts 2024 will bring the biggest crash of our lifetime. I want to say this. I just Googled him and went back, and he's made predictions before that haven't come true. By the way, every economist has.
Gary, we are just learning.
We are just
I think
learning.
what we are learning here is that economic predictions aren't always 100% of the time correct.
Especially if they come
from CNBC.
CNBC, the White House Economic Office, the Fed.
Look, it's interesting. I think I saved a story. I don't think we got to it. I'll double check here. But the Fed basically it was one of the Fed presidents, and I don't know which one, that said the goal is in 24 is going to be the Fed is going to do everything to prevent the recession. And you and I broke that down when Jerome Powell, Fed chair, recently announced, okay, we could see as many as, or he implied we could see as many as 3 rate drops in 24. And the previous meeting, roughly a month earlier, it was, no, we could see another increase. Well, now that they see that, and the goal is, okay, soft landing, essentially prevent the recession. And we'll see how far they go with it. But they do know, as you pointed out all along, it's acknowledgement they believe a recession is coming. And now it's not just economists. You can tell that the Fed knows that. They see it. And when you see it, paycheck to paycheck, and then you add to it the collective credit card debt at an all-time high. Well, what happens with that? Well, inevitably, when you start, if you're going to get close to your limits on your credit cards, there's a reassessment by those lenders, by the issuers of those credit cards. And essentially, I mean, they're rarely, unless something, happened and your pay greatly increased, they're not going to increase your limit. So you hit your limit. And then what do? There's no more money to borrow. Then you start, we brought you the article that was paired with the whole credit card thing and where people are, that said it also included the 401k thing. All right. And then what? At some point, and the one economist that we had, Jim Grant, the story that we had of him on Fox Business News recently saying, your purchasing power is not coming back. Inflation is a constant. So prices, I'm sorry, send this portion of the show to Steve Leisman. Prices aren't going to be coming back in that way in your overall purchasing power of the things we buy. Some things, they'll drop, if there's a low demand, and energy is one of those things, up and down. By the way, you mentioned the gas prices in your neighborhood, 20-cent jump in one day.
30-cent jump in one day after the Red Sea, after BP announced.
I was south of here, southwest of here, and I noticed yesterday way higher than up here, and I don't know why that is. I paid 40 cents less than they were charging in this small town that I was driving through yesterday, and I thought, okay, normally it's the other way around. But the entire equation is that we're at that point. Then what happens? Then the pressure is, okay, we got to make more money. We've the credit card debt is real, and we can't borrow anymore. We got to just keep up with the interest, and hopefully you can do that. And then there's no more 401k to tap into. You can't, all right, you're going to sell assets. Well, you may not have anything. So you turn to your employment. All right, I got to make more money. Your side gig isn't doing enough. And then you go to your employer and say, I need a raise. Then we have what's called labor inflation. Because people will be doing that as a collective workforce more and more. Because of the fact that we don't have millions of people out there waiting for a job that are unemployed. We could during a recession. But, if it doesn't get to that point, then there's still millions of jobs available. So people feel like they can go and they can apply for another job that pays more. And so retention is going to cost. That labor inflation, I don't know where it's going to go, but that labor inflation is likely to be in play at a significant level for years.
Well, this economist goes back, Jim Dent, to 2009. He goes, since 2009, this has been 100% artificial, unprecedented money printing and deficits, $27 trillion over the last 15 years, to be exact. This is off the charts. 100% artificial, which means we're in a dangerous state, Henry Dent told Fox News Digital. I think 2024 is going to be the biggest single crash year we'll see in our lifetimes. I'm the guy that's praying for a crash while everybody else is not. We need to get back down to normal. We need to send a message to central banks. This should be the lesson I don't think we'll ever revisit. I don't think we'll ever see a bubble for any of our lifetimes again. Dent, who spent the majority of his career analyzing proprietary research, credited his against-the-grain prediction to overvalued markets and excessive stimulus spending, while recent rallies have overwhelmingly provided investors with mild recession expectations. Dent remained firm that an everything bubble will burst. Wow, an everything bubble will burst next year. The economist noted that this bubble actually started in late 2021 after the height of the COVID pandemic, with the first sign showing in 2022 when NASDAQ was down 38%. A new year will bring the B wave of the crash. And so he goes on and on. Here's the thing that you and I have looked at, for example, the how long the Fed manipulated our currency for.
Right.
How long, having zero interest rates. So in essence, they could print money to buy our own debt.
Yeah.
And then make it so borrowing could be done by the federal government with less of a oomph that the public would feel. Now we're feeling it.
Yeah.
Now we're feeling it across the board with inflation. We borrowed so much money that finally, it wasn't massive cuts that immediately hit, even though I probably see them coming. When I don't know, because it looks like we're in the doom cycle now, which is the fact that the interest on the debt is so great that they've already allocated money, so they're going to continue to spend money, and they're going to borrow more money, meaning more debt, and you just get into this never-ending cycle. The other thing is when we look, for example, manufacturing down, 14, 15 months in a row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've talked about the change since that time of 2008 of how they figure out GDP, which is a lot of it's the movement of money, not actually the creation of new goods and services, which should be, to me, the absolute major factor in how you judge an economy, the increase in goods and services, which that is what gives your currency value.
Right.
When people say, I've heard what Rand Paul and Ron Paul say, we have a fiat currency, that's not true.
Right.
It's furthest from the truth. It may sound good, you might like to say it. The dollar is based on nothing. That's incorrect. You see it. You know it's not because of the International Monetary Exchange, what they trade dollars for other currency.
Right.
So you know that we have value. What gives our value? The goods and services that we produce, the debt, everything that you would look at to analyze your own household and what type of financial situation you're in is exactly what the free market does when it comes to judging, what the dollar is worth. So that, to me, when I look at it and I say, all right, for example, we know that the economy did great in the third quarter because people had so much money that they spent that was borrowed.
Yeah.
That we're going to have to pay down the road, which is going to hurt economic growth in the future. So is that pure economic growth that we're seeing? Is that natural organic growth, or is it growth based on something that we have to suffer for down the road? As we know, it's growth that you have to suffer for down the road. And that's what is the biggest fear for me, is the fact that we're not going to get out of this debt. There's no way the American public is going to accept the cuts that you're going to need to get to this point. You've still got to shore up Social Security and Medicare. That's going to cost a lot of additional extra dollars because the public doesn't want it to go away.
Yep.
And they're not in 2033, 2034 going to come and say, okay, every senior citizen takes a 20% cut today. That's not happening.
No, politically, that's suicide.
So you've got to cut in other areas, and we will cut in other areas. You're going to get to the point where it's going to be defense, foreign aid, Social Security, and Medicare.
Yeah.
I could even see, and I say Social Security and Medicare, and you notice I didn't say Medicaid or Obamacare, because I think the situation will get so bad, especially having to support Social Security and Medicare, that you may see cuts in the federal government getting involved in health care even, because they just can't afford to do it.
Likely not Medicaid. No. Medicaid cuts would be limited, but I could see the whole Obamacare, that whole thing essentially dissolving. I mean, if not converted to Medicaid.
Well, and I say this, and again, I'm taking liberties here. I'm the first to admit it, but I don't see how we get out of the death spiral, Eric. That's the point.
Well, that's the problem.
That's I don't think anybody can predict. That's why I can throw Medicaid in there, because you're like, well, sure, throw it to the states. States, you got to come up with your program. It's got to be more market based, whatever.
Yeah, I don't think it would be. Yeah, right. Turn it over to the states.
Yes.
So Medicaid would still exist, but it would be the states. It wouldn't be the federal government.
Right.
But and I could see that too. I'm with you on that. And I've been watching and thinking, we're coming up on the 100-year anniversary of the Great Depression, and look at all of these things that are coming to a head with our economy. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not saying we're heading into that, but there is no way to turn this around right now.
866-98 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, looking at this Henry Denton, his prediction in 2024, we're going to get hit real bad, economically speaking. The one thing, like I said, I agree with everything his setup of everything that we've seen since 2009. Yeah, I mean, the incredible, the easy money, the Fed manipulating the dollar. You and I always go back to 2012. Remember, it was so shocking. Remember when Romney came out and said, the Chinese are manipulating their dollar. It's like, what the hell you think we're doing?
What do you think we're doing here? And have been doing for a while.
And you saw that happening by keeping interest rates artificially low so we can buy our own debt.
Right.
But and so I don't know if it's going to happen in 2024, but you take all the different variables here. All the things that relate to what we're going through right now are totally unique. I haven't seen all of these negative things together since I've been covering politics or economics.
Right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.